Fine, so I get it to you, because I talked to them and I said, we were gonna do it and schedule it. The weekend.
I have an issue.
One came in, one left. Yeah, I've got the other thing. I'll talk about it. It's actually good.
Students that keep going.
This goes under LVRT.
Yeah, I just want to know if it's up here to do it.
Yep. The deal. You got a good deal on that. You know, coming back.
Our community partners are really good.
Oh, yeah. Coming.
Oh, we already started before you were,
All right, cameras on. I'm gonna call to order the town of Swanton Selectboard meeting for June 17th, 2025 at 6:01. Everybody would please join us in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, agenda review, we'll start with Christina.
you will see, I gave you proposed. I would like to add proposed Swanton zoning planning fee schedule. Just the growth of stuff.
Under the town business.
Yeah.
Okay. Happy,
I'm good, thank you.
well,
Exactly.
Just what we were just talking about in the park, because that question has come up to me a couple of times, maybe you could, Brian, give us an update of what's going on.
okay, Swan Pond. Okay. I would like to move, if everybody's comfortable with it, the discussion with Ian Weiss, right up after public comment, and then, Mr. John Kozowski, Cemetery Commission. It seems they're in the crowd here tonight instead of going through the other business, everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Nick, anything?
No. Just one question, I think on the agenda. Under fiscal A, we're talking about the end price town audit of 2023, I think it was 2022.
No, it's 23.
Why did you ask questions on the 2020?
Like what?
We sent in information on the audit of 2022.
The one we received was the audit of 2023.
Oh, we had the 2022 also.
Yeah, we talked about that a year ago. I thought the plan tonight was these were got passed out the other day, and that's what we were talking about.
I'm looking for it. I sent a bunch of questions on the 2022.
I didn't even look, I know that we were talking tonight, I knew you had some questions, I didn't check to see what year,
Okay, well, I had a set for 2022 and 2023. Two separate sets.
okay,
So we'll work on 2023 and talk about the other one.
okay. All right, Brian, do you have anything?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. I'd like to, looking for authorization, fair agree to, title work, legal work, even buyouts, and I guess that would be
Town business,
town business.
or actually Old Town
I
business,
didn't
being a
want to
buyout,
put it around here.
Yeah.
Also, I did receive a bid from painting later. This meeting for the painting of town offices, and I did receive though it's very late, but a bid for the dump truck.
okay. Only one, talks about the pain and the.
Yeah.
And both of those will be going to new town business.
And then also the new town businesses that I prepared an RFP for a 4x4 truck chassis. One,
Okay. Minutes. Regular select board meeting of June 3, 2025, entertain a motion to approve. That's to approve.
No second.
Motion been made, seconded, approved. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, so moved. Okay, public comment for anything that is not on the agenda, do we have anybody on the screen? Doesn't look like it. Okay. And then we will move right ahead and invite Chris up to the table, if you would.
Everybody. First Latin. Are you in charge of painting on the Swanton product engagement or? Only we can put up on the public engagements and hopefully we'll get 2024 process. I emailed with Kathy and still I'm working the rest for 2023, so it's in it. Plan is to get it all worked on in July. Have it wrapped out by
For the 2024.
for 2024. Yeah. What would you like me to go over as far as the financial statements?
Well, I guess first, just kind of an overview,
Okay, so if we got the one that says financial statements on it.
okay. Big one.
Basically, like on page where it says independent auditor's report. Basically gives you the opinion first, which is a clean opinion based on a modified cash basis of accounting, which is what we're using presented for. Pretty much cash basis with just something like small liability accounts, right, zero liabilities. I think compared to if it was modified accrual, you'd include your receivables, so property tax, include the property tax receivables, which is your accounts payable. No, those payable will be all included in your financial statements. But the cash basis, you're basically reporting the cash and fund balance accounts on.
Okay.
Page 4. This part of the GASB. Accounts payable boards, statement 34 statements. Government activities, but on a cash basis or modified back basis report. There's no difference between the statement and that position and the balance sheet. But it's all cash basis. If it was in using the modified accrual basis report, this would be a different reporting to include your pension liabilities that you have and all your notes payable balances and receivables, a lot of more stuff that's involved. I spoke to Brian about as far as you did the request for a proposal for 2024. You wanted instead of some GAAP basis, by GAAP basis would be significant additional work.
Yeah, I thought I saw where you had to take into account all your equipment. and
Yeah,
stuff,
you're
the value
probably
of the
you're down
equipment.
fixed assets and depreciation, so you have to do a whole inventory of all your town's equipment plus. The value of the roads and everything, so it's a pretty big undertaking.
Required to have that.
The only requirement is. Technically, if the federal government was to give you federal funds in excess of $750,000, they could. Possibly deny it if you don't have GAAP basis statements, but I've never seen that happen. No, if we said they want GAAP basis statements, then at that point in time, you probably have to do it if there are federal funds involved. And that 750,000 is now $7 million now.
So it's a probably good chance that we probably.
You've received plenty of federal funds
Right.
since then. So
Yeah, it just seemed like another level for not necessarily a lot of
towns,
enjoyable.
we have a lot, we still have a lot of small towns that just do the modified cash basis or cash basis because. We don't want to pay the $40,000-$50,000 to. Do it. Cash basis still expensive.
Not change what our town clerk does now with their system or.
She'd have to do a lot more.
I saw that. They said that was their big thing, was why are you letting no other towns want to do it? it's not feasible.
Yeah.
The crowd is major overhauls and everything leaving here.
So basically, the statement acquisition tells you your cash. Line funds, you have 2,871,469 in cash. Of which, $1,081 is in the nursing rescue plan ag, which.
Yeah.
Identified where that money is going. Then we got a small amount in the library and the highway garage, equipment, road improvements. Mapping, revolving loan, that's actually. Pay that back to the state.
Not yet, we are,
You're in the process of,
not probably next week.
okay,
So you finally told us where they want.
They finally contacted.
That's
us.
that one we decided months ago that we
Yeah,
weren't
we're
gonna.
gonna send it back, they finally called us, well, emailed Brian Mustin and said, this is where you're gonna send it.
so on page 5, they got like a 3 or 4 statement of activities, they kind of do it backwards, it shows expenses, then it shows. Expenses by cost center, general government, highway, public safety, recreation. ARPA, library, debt service, but your expenses were, and then. What. Fees or grants that you had that pertain to that. Cost center. And then basically your property tax paid for the remainder. So basically it's saying general government, you had 1,231,691 in expenses. Charges for services were 131,668. And grants of 119,204, so. You basically have to come up with 980,019 for property taxes paid for the general government.
One question about the capacity. Is there any movement in the states we for towns that you've heard of?
Not that I've heard, not with. You know, and I think they realize. Small towns, do the same thing for the county courts and sheriffs. They realize that it's a big undertaking. The small towns, it's a pretty big expense. I haven't seen where it is. Or small. Then basically, your basic governmental financial statements are in pages 6 through. 6 through 12, basically. You have your balance sheet. On a cash basis. And. We're required to report what they consider major funds. Detail on this statement and all the non-majors. Solid. After the footnotes. Is a total. Basically, the major fund is based on percentage of the revenue. Compared to the overall revenue to get considered a major fund, and your major funds are. General fund will always be a major, public works is a major fund, economic development fund. ARPA and the library fund can be major funds. Everything else is considered non-major, so that's just combined. One statement. At the end. You got your page 7 is your statement of revenue, expenditures and changes in fund balance. Yes, rest is all. Where your revenues came from. And by the expenditures. We break down the general government to be. The select board, general benefits, and then the clerk's office. Listers and zoning and planning. I know that we have operating transfers in and out between. The general fund and the operation fund. The appropriate. The approved town meeting. Given to the. Recreation fund, so that's treated as operating transfer. Page 8 is the summarized. Budget per actual for the general fund. See where most of it's. pretty reasonable. As far as variances in the revenues were. Pretty close to anticipated for. Property taxes and licenses, permits and fees. Intergovernmental, it's not budgeted, so whatever. State grants or other grants you get. Show that you don't have a budgeted revenue, but you show it as the actual. Revenue in here, and then the budget versus actual expenditure are pretty reasonable, other than zoning and planning, that's. Over by $20,000. So I have to look. Yeah, so.
Zoning and planning.
Done.
Okay, so if you go on page 31, add the detailed budget versus actual statement.
Oh,
So most of it was the town plan expense and then
Yes.
land use and development regulations. That they have.
Those are some contracts.
yeah,
Yes.
and one of them was we're supposed to. Went over because originally I think we were going to. It's a grant they got, but. We couldn't get. Because we paid him before we got the grant, we were into, when Amy came to the select board, she was applying for a grant. To pay to that to be done, but because we paid for it before we got the grant wouldn't pay for it.
Okay.
We have a budget versus actual from the public works fund. This is what I when I was doing this final budget, this the actual report. Just trying to determine what the budgeted property taxes were. It's coming up with a total, and it was. $155,000 less than what was in the actual. I can't determine that. Too much had been transferred over to the highway fund, to the public works fund. They basically. Transferred over what the budgeted. The overall budget was. The 1,905,765, so I made a generally put it into due from. And reduce the property taxes accordingly, so that we on the report that I submitted. I talked to Kathy about what she can do to. Get that going forward, just because technically she's not. The budgeted revenue is put in the number system. Just the, so I'll show her how to put that budget revenue in, that way you can tell. That, especially in the public works, that should agree. And. You're doing a library now. That's an approved budget, have that, the budget versus actual report from the library is statement. And the fiduciary funds on page 11, the private purpose trust, those are just the cemetery funds. We don't have a lot of activity in those. See page 12 is just interest income. But this is cash basis, a lot of the activity is reported in January of the following year, so I think if they could try to get everything done in December here, it'd be reported on the. And the custodial fund, we're required to report now. Basically, we don't show it in property tax revenue anymore, it's considered. For the school districts, it's basically you're collecting it on behalf of the school district, or you just pay it over to their school district, so it's considered custodial funds. Makes that to the tax collected and distributed to the school. Page 13 to page 27 of footnote disclosures. They say the summary.
I guess more actually working back. We made, maybe the, but we,
Well, the interest is on the cemetery trust funds.
oh, okay.
And. On the note, we have just. Note one is basically a summary of significant accounting policies. It's different presentations, we have a government-wide financial statement for the first two financial statements, considered government-wide. You have fund financial statements for the ones. Six financial statements after government-wide were fund financial statements. I discuss under governmental funds, the ones that are considered major. The reason why they're major. The basis of accounting is the modified cash basis of accounting. Basically. So cash is received, cash is paid, that's. In smaller towns are. It's basically a lot easier to understand than the modified accrual or. The property tax received. $350,000. We do testing for it. We also have to test for 60 days after year end, and I think left at 60 days after year end was considered income in following the previous year, so there's a lot more involved with the audit of GAAP basis statements. Or has to be done. Slows, say that absences. We disclose it, we don't report on it, you know, if they were modified. Accrual basis, we report. The compensate absence, that's an liability and an expense. We adjust it every year.
So on these notes, is there any significant one that jumps out that we need to be aware of and put special attention to? I know Steve's got a series of questions, but we said page 13 through 27, so just notes explaining your.
Yeah, they're just
Where the numbers came, right?
right, and we do disclose. We put notes like your long-term debt, even though it's not in your financial statements, but we do. Disclose what your outstanding debt is, you only have the one number. Standing
At a high production bar.
yeah, in the year of 280,000, 377, and then page 21, we show. There's one interest. Maturity, we do 5 years and then 5-year increments to let's pay it off, show so. But your basically what your liability is, for the next 5 years. 5 years after that,
That's not very much, is it?
for a town, that's pretty, that's really good, most. That's significantly higher. Than a lot of other towns that do with this one page. Footnote is 4 or 5 pages, in some balance, that's.
Oh, yeah.
I mean. All the outstanding. And then no 8 is municipal wage retirement system. We add this in. Like they would modify cash basis, we don't need to report. This whole amount, but put it in there because it's just a standard. But no disclosure, it's telling you that. According to the state. The pension liability for the town of Swan is $512,576.
Our liability.
It could be if they don't. If the,
State program,
that, you know, if it goes. Investment values. Get worse and worse. It could go. But it's all based on estimates, and because you'll see where. On page 25. They show if it was 1%. Lower the discount rate. Liability would be $771,000. Higher. $299, so it's all based on estimates.
What happens to all the money that town put in, the employees, and what they put into that,
It's invested.
Yeah, but if the town is liable for this, can we deduct that off of it? You know, if we've already contributed a certain amount.
It's, there's a couple other amounts that are there that we don't dispose on because it's cash basis, but there are. There's deferred outflows as part of the equation and deferred inflows as part of the equation. Don't report on that in here.
The liability piece is if the state retirement system fails, right?
Fails, and
I mean, right now, people are retired and they're getting paid, but the state, that sort of thing, so this. Number here, as large as it is just telling us,
it's just a potential that, you know, if the system fails and we could be on the hook for that amount.
to the employees, didn't get.
Assume that if the state failed, we failed too, so. We're on our own.
Then that's basically the only. Good detail one in the footnotes, and then after that, we just have the detail. Budget versus actual, which we're pretty much published in the. report. We do that for the general fund. Public works. Library fund. The only two other funds are the zoning mapping fund and the recreation fund. Any other questions on the financial statements?
And consider non-major because the percentage of the overall budget, you said is that's a nice. Okay. Steve got some,
The date that I should be first and I found it was the but I sent it on February 10th.
I never saw it.
it's simple.
What was the question?
Well, there was
It's on or about February. You got them, simple.
I
You
looked
got them.
I looked
I
this
know.
over. And I had some questions and it was dated February 10th, 2025. And then it was in reference to the 2023 audit. And then I had another bunch that I sent out in regards to 2022. And I had hoped, I think I'd asked that send these to you ahead of time. So you'd have a chance to look them over, give us your thoughts.
Go ahead and ask them, that's what we're doing,
And I think there's another issue, they didn't get them.
okay? That I don't know, I'll have to go back and look at that email. I'm not the CEO,
About that.
what's that?
I'll track it down.
Okay, I'll just ask a few questions. I'm disappointed this didn't get to you ahead of time, zip right through these things. It's gonna take another hour or so. I guess one of the questions, any new pronouncements forthcoming? That we should be aware of.
Nothing. We put on, it's on page 19. There were certain schools related to debt. Including direct borrowing and direct placements and. For compensation plan for this month, this year modified that basis with a to.
On the letter of 10/17/24. I question, what were the several matters? That are opportunities, etc. That you mentioned, were any of these taken and implemented? And what would be the status? And then there's more reference to these, I think you made some recommendations. For whatever, it could have been internal control or Ellen. I'm just curious how those word had they been implemented, or just decided to let them do it.
Well, one of them in the additional required report, we indicate that. Technically, the financial statements are supposed to be prepared by the town and we're just reporting on them. But they're saying that they've told us that they're not gonna do it, they're gonna rely on auditors to do it, but because of that, they show it as a material weakness.
material weakness.
Material weakness that. You know, it's not cost beneficial for them to. Well,
Are you gonna mention that every year?
we will.
Okay.
Until they, unless they,
And when you say they,
well, maybe
and I read.
probably 99% of the towns. Do not, it's only big cities. Because a lot of the bigger cities or bigger towns. Hire another outside CPA firm to do the accounting assistant. Or the financial firm.
Right.
And then the audit firm will come in and audit the numbers. But in a small town. We realize that's not gonna happen, and that's why in our minimum representation letter. We. You're basically signing it saying that. Either Brian or Kathy or both. Are representing that. You're understanding the financial statements and. You're taking responsibility on those financial statements, and not, we're not making any management decisions. The auditor would make us not independent,
Right.
so it's basic by doing that. You know, that's why we, you know, we'll send in the financial statements to review if you have questions on it. At least we know about it, it's being reviewed. And we will discuss. What if you have issues? You have Brian on the property tax transfer issues.
We have a risk management program. I think one was developed. And I read that it has to be reviewed periodically. Do you know if that's been done? I looked on it, I thought it was pretty good, but I didn't know if we had to ascertain what's been looked at and reviewed, or you looked at it.
We reviewed it, and if there's no changes to it, I'm gonna. Review it.
We have,
Yeah.
we have to certify those as a board that we reviewed. The risk management's a big issue. We have to certify as a board that we annually that we review this, or we're okay with it.
As far as risk management, yeah, you improve it. I would say if you have any changes to it.
Sounds like you're not aware of any state statute that says the select board will review annually risk management. That's what I'm kind of hearing. We could put it on our own schedule to do it annually. And take a look and see if we know of any changes, and then certainly ask our auditors to see if this makes sense, what's written in there.
Once in a while you read about.
And with everything going on with AI now, it's probably gonna probably be changes to the.
Yeah, it'd be good town policy to have that review every year. And find a way to get those questions to you before. Do your presentation.
Well, when you get the stuff for the 2024. Matthew's gonna compile and send it, I'll send you the present policy for everything.
Yeah. And we do request if there's any new.
Yeah.
Policies and so probably we try to, we also read all the minutes. Try to highlight if there's anything that's been approved in the minutes, I'll say, well, did we get, you guys get a copy of this?
We are doing a change to the purchasing policy. We sign tonight. So that.
Okay.
Okay, you had mentioned. Some funds were not included. Or maybe they were, we didn't know they were there. I guess my question is, what were those funds and have they been addressed?
It's mostly the cemetery trust funds. They just need to be, you know, added and the activity reported within the NEMRIC system. It's not a lot of activity, so it probably wouldn't be that difficult to do, but add it to the NEMRIC. Trial balance and then report the activity within the.
Were there any other funds?
The only other one that's kind of confusing is the recreation fund, because. The recreation. They have it, they use Nemrick, but the payroll is done. On the town side, right, so.
The payroll is done after the fact, but effective January this year, payroll is done live for them.
So it's all in one system then.
To a
And-
certain degree.
Okay, so that's the one that there's, that's in the minimum letter comments, that's the one where.
Right.
I said it's confusing and then
It's
there's
confusing.
a couple of payroll accounts and liability accounts that aren't being accounted for. Properly, we make the adjustment
Right, because
after the fact for it,
they're not
So-
live.
so it's, if they just had it all in one set of trial balance. Be a lot easier. And if I was, then I could just show Kathy what to do with the liability accounts. That's, they,
The problem with, we're not live with. Fund 3 on our system.
Right.
It's like a fake system, I shouldn't say. We do their payroll after the fact, so all the payroll expenses was going through the rec department. And basically what I was doing was I would do an after the fact payroll, post the payroll after it was done. And then they would send me a check to reimburse me for the taxes. And the Vermont Department of Labor and the Beamers. Cause we pay it because. When it was set up, it was the fact that we would do the W-2s. And the only way we can do the W-2s is if we do the payroll. The only way we could do the payroll at that time was after the fact payroll. So that's the approach, Joel, at the end of the year. Correct. To see if I could actually do the payroll. So I'm actually doing the payroll, but it's kind of like the after the fact payroll in reverse. I'm doing it, posting it, and they're reimbursing me for all the expenses.
Including the salary.
but still,
So it's actually in the actual accounted for the payroll and the expenses. Is still their liability and expense in their ledger.
so I'll have to look at it, see how it's,
Okay.
see if it's.
Okay, we can talk about that.
That's the one that's, it's pretty confusing when it's coming from two sources.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out.
Yeah, but
I can remember.
there's nothing there that would be a concern, it's just the way it's set up right now makes it more difficult.
Because it is gap based as long as. Hash is accurate and we adjusted the payroll liability, so.
One of the. With the rec, that may also be confusing. Talk about it here, the special funds. Stuff they receive that's earmarked that isn't necessarily an appropriation from the town. Does that get confusing in how we use our system?
No, because they get we send the. Rec department sends in their trial balance and their accounts and everything for them to review and stuff.
Okay, so we've seen that and it's all accounted for.
Yeah.
One thing is the board, we haven't seen after the first quarter. Is we're still waiting for the special fund report, so. If you're seeing all on the ledgers and we need to clean it up and get it. Get it to the board,
That's a reconciliation, right, marking is up.
yes, and there, we need to see that, we were told after the last. Briefing of the quarterly that we were gonna get it, so hopefully in the next couple of meetings here, we see that.
I just
Special
want to
fund.
demo on.
And I just want to add on to that, I'm not even seeing similar issues in regards to the library. Because I see, we know that the payroll liability is.
It was, yeah. The payroll liabilities and employee benefits, some of the employee benefits aren't even.
What happened was, I talked to Nemrick about it because I kind of caught it at the end of the year when I was doing stuff and I contacted Nemrick and there were a couple. Liabilities that were hitting the wrong liability, it was the same liability but a different fund. So we made the adjustments to make it go where it's supposed to go.
Did you have the rec committee's reserve fund and look at the aggregation of all of the town's monies?
I did, I had.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm installed.
that fell into it. I didn't see that, I never missed it. We took out a loan. That shouldn't, it was not approved by the board. A small amount of money. really immaterial, were you aware of that?
No, it wasn't in 2023.
Just read that.
That's been
So it's
saying,
fun to look for.
I got my years, but that's been saying. I think that was the main question that I had. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, just one other. We are really well functioning office, here. Everybody covers everybody else, they know each other's job. Somebody's out, they can fit in. Do we need any practice of dual controls here, or sign off? Because of all of the interactivity, which is good, I mean, it's good service, but I'm concerned about whether we need proper sign offs and dual controls.
It would,
In regards to,
I don't know, I mean.
okay, I'm just-
For example, I get people off the top of my head, if you were to prepare a deposit to go to the bank, if somebody sign off on that really before it was over. Simple things like that, but
well, typically if I do a deposit, I do the deposit, Brian takes it. And then, well, Tamara does the nightly cash out usually unless she's not here, vice versa, I don't think she does. I prepare the deposits, she does the proof, I prepare the deposits, if I can't go to the bank, Brian goes to the bank. Does the deposit,
so when you do that, I mean, this is just one example, there's probably multiple we can look at. Or when you do the deposit, that's some of the accumulation of monies that somebody else gave you.
right,
Okay, so that you do have full control, right?
but we have
Somebody
dual
else-
control, but on the days that Tamara's not here, then I do the cash out for the day. And every day, the system creates a cash out.
days like that when she's not here, but I could just have Brian sign off on it as a.
It's just simple things like that that protect you, that's all. And we can sit here and think of.
Same thing
Yeah.
with payroll and.
Yeah.
So reviewing it before it's released or whatever.
That's
So-
Go ahead.
So someone signing off from payroll, like before I do my ACH,
Yeah, just reviewing it, just make sure that your list of employees are all actual employees.
oh, okay.
It's the same.
Brian,
It's the
you're gonna
same.
be coming.
But it's a quick, simple.
Yeah, we need the list, I mean, we have 25, I think 25. 25,
Yes, that's.
30, 33 employees. 8 or 9.
One week, someone gets paid $1,200, but the next week they get paid $2,500, second one is get paid $2,500.
Or I guess my
Yeah,
question,
that's
the reason for bringing that up, again, it's just everybody who protects everybody, and brings some uniformity. Could you give us maybe a list of what you think we ought to consider dual control?
Yeah, I can look at it, because we always send you a list of your controls that we
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
I can see what.
Yeah.
And see if there's anything where we can, because we do have a. list of
We
controls
did,
that
we
have.
did do a list on certain things because sometimes I'm the only one person in the office or and anyone else on vacation, I'm the only one there, so I'm gonna be the one who's gonna be doing cash out every day. But the system does produce. Within NEMRIC itself, it produces what you collect for cash every day, what you get for checks every day, what you get for credit card process every day, so that's on an internal report from NEMRIC, and then we do our own cash out report. Every day we come up cash and do a report and match the two together, we come up with money, take the money out, put it, and then we deposit it into the bank. But I mean, if
But we have a list of
Yeah, you
summary
have- yeah.
of controls of different areas like
Yeah.
cash receipts, cash disbursements, property taxes, bill.
Yeah.
Payroll. They review and see if there's been any changes, and we do call a walkthrough of the controls. Just one transaction in each area before we start our audit.
I mean, what you just gave is a perfect example, you're all by yourself. That's where you get somebody else, you just look at it initially or something, it just protects everybody. Um,
And the other thing is also cross training, so
Yeah.
that when you're not here.
yeah, I mean,
Stuff something to
she
do
can
all
do
the-
it, it's just that. I'm not
That's
here,
all.
someday I'm off,
I'm involved in
she's
this town right now.
some days we're
We
here
have
working.
cross
no
training,
one's
the
here.
person was out with surgery for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good.
Yeah, we've all got cases where fraud takes place and even though control might not have stopped it, but, okay, thank you. That's right.
Pretty much going over the additional required reports, and I think we're getting a lot of comments. Pretty much just the payroll liability and. Not all this fun being in the. Number problems, which. It. Tend for there. Consolidating the preparation fund capabilities.
Brian, you and I are getting together.
What's that?
I said, Brian, you and I are getting together.
Is there any other questions?
I've got some of the 2022 in the proposal.
This send to me and I can respond to them if you want me to.
Well, I think these, unfortunately, I think these were sent to you ahead of time, but that's fine.
Well. If I was, if it came from a Gmail account, then
Well, that's okay, we
if
covered
it
it.
came from a Gmail account, we'll direct it to our spam.
So
And
just real quick then on the cemetery and the rec issue, we're clear on what we're gonna do to. Satisfy what's in that letter.
I'll talk to Chris about doing this.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of.
That's payroll.
Payroll.
Just a question on cemetery, you say cemetery trust funds, and that's in the trustees of all.
Is that all you're talking about, the
Or
trustees
the
of that
actual
money?
cemetery commission.
no cemetery trust funds.
Okay.
Or us.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking, I know exactly
They're
which
just
one you're talking
getting
about.
the Barney and the.
Yeah, the Barney and the Steels fund, yeah.
So we'll see those again for the 2024. It sounds like we haven't quite got there yet.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's, but. Now,
Well, we're trying to get up the current of the audit.
Yeah.
Section before we're.
right, so.
We're playing catch up.
I know, yeah, so but those same issues.
Hoping for good.
We're on the same
Carry
page.
through 2024 now. At some point here in 2025, you're gonna be able to say,
We're on the same
we've got
page.
that figured out. and
Yeah.
ahead.
There- Some of those documents are available. For those trust funds, one has a missing document, when you actually look at them, and I did,
Right,
yeah, they're there, actually, they're quite unique, and we don't, but not things.
okay,
All right.
anything else?
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for-
Have a good evening, guys.
We too.
I think you said 45 minutes, last meeting the plan for is that. That's what we pretty much did. Okay, we're gonna have Swanton Cemetery Commission, Mr. John Zdowski, am I pronouncing that correctly? If I'm not, correct me.
It's Ketchkowski, it's the closest to it.
Ketchkowski,
Yes.
all right, Mr. Ketchkowski, I'll try to. That's right,
Also, Mr. Chair, if I may, for the record, we kind of 3 of the 5 positions in cemetery commission, but it's me, so. Seems to also qualify as a commission, meaning for purposes of events.
So you wanna call your cemetery commission meeting to order?
Yeah, I'll order just for purposes. But
Is that actually conflict 2 days?
well, it probably should have, but I didn't think of it, so that's.
At least you're not gonna take any action, this is more information meeting. Alright. Yeah.
So yes, as Brian said, Jack Chakowski, one of the 3 cemetery commissioners here. Here to talk about the Corporal Ward historic roadside marker. Issue that we will be having next year. So this was actually the brainchild of Nick and Brian. I kind of took the initiative and began doing research that we could honor Corporal Ward in a more permanent, long-term setting versus the proclamation that Governor Scott did in
18, yeah.
and so what we came up with that we were best qualified for is the Vermont Historic Roadside site marker. And there are 5 different categories for which qualify. We qualify for number 2, which site is associated with the lives of a person of our past or present. Birthplace of significant individual, area of place of said significant individual, building or site associated with said individual, group, and or business. which we qualify for the burial of corporal ward at Riverside. So, working with the Vermont National Guard, National Guards Museum out of Johnson, Colchester, as well as just research online, compiled everything over the 10-month period. Some of the records we were not able to get from the federal government due to a fire in the 70s that destroyed a number of military records from World War I to Korea. So we submitted those to the Vermont Historic and Preservation Council. That council is overseen by the governor and state preservation officer. We provide the text for the marker, all relevant information where the markers are in place, they review it. And then any changes or modifications they vote on and they approve. Brian also said it on the 8th of March. And what was decided is the just before the burial ground on Riverside is where the state would like to place that marker slightly just off the roadside in last month they dropped the post off. Yes. Last month they dropped the post off. It's about a 10-foot medium pole, which is the diameter, and the plaque is at the foundry. Don't have a time frame, it's like be done roughly in the fall. That is all paid for by the state. The town does not incur any expenses for marker or pole. We just have to the cemetery commission, excuse me, oversees the concrete foundation that the marker will go in. Once we determine a date, I will put in which Brian will coordinate with the highway department in order to. As for the dedication itself, it's been scheduled for April 12th of next year, which is the anniversary of which Corporal Ward was killed in France. When an artillery shell made a direct hit on the dugout, he was taking refuge in, going into his machine position. The initial invite draft was worked on by former Commissioner Mason Dupont. It's around for everyone to take a look at. And we are also working on something called a challenge plan. And what these are is these are created for your events, military units, etc. And that is the draft we're working on. The front is the state logo, that is Corporal Ward's division, which was the division, given that the units were comprised of all different areas of learning. So that is this, and then this is just a generic challenge going, just to see for comparison's sake of what will be produced once we decide on the final design. As for the event itself, we've worked with the National Guard, specifically Staff Sergeant Chase out of the St. Albans recruiting office, as well as Mr. Clark at the DFW. The National Guard was kind enough to provide us 5 members to assist with any sudden takedown, either at Riverside or at the DFW, as well as a chaplain and a individual holding the rank of B5, which is Sergeant 2. And then the DFW is kind of offered to host the post reception at the VFW, as well as a honor guard contingent and the newborns play taps. So currently the project is set up into 5 phases. We're currently finishing phase 1 and working on phase 2. Phase 1 is long-term invites, so individuals that require further invitation, which include Governor Scott, the French embassy, as well as a French consulate, and then various elected representatives. So we're still waiting for that. Those invitations were sent at the end of April.
Our family don't have any, there's no descendants.
No, Brian and Nick have looked into that and asked for relative that any of us have English that passed away at the end of last year.
Have any connection to the water room?
I don't know. That's a
Yeah.
good question, I'm not sure where the. You know, the historical society, where was the Lord Tar?
I would have to look that up.
I don't have that. So furthermore, other invitations, not only will this be a public invitation, but more specifically to the other. Extending this to the. So what's
The Royal Canadian Legion proposed.
So they'll be invited as well. Local media, that list is being compiled. And in late September, the state, will work with us on creating a press release to the various media outlets. Will reach out to us, reach out to them. As for phase 3, Nick, Ryan, and myself will be reaching out as well to the high school. Their history classes and AV classes to help us, as well as just that maybe history experience that you can't really get inside a classroom or inside a textbook. And then phases 4 and 5 would be essentially just set up rundowns and just making sure everything is set for April. So the ceremony itself, that other side, when you enter, there was a slight dip. That is the best place we can do it to hold all of us as well as the public. Parking logistics are still being worked out, given Riverside does not have the same space that we do, in the park and surrounding area. So that will be discussed later this summer as well as final details that it's still submitting. Trails will be back here probably in fall to do just a presentation of how things. So,
Are you gonna have a web page that we can get on the site or?
we're gonna work with Brian on that. The Cemetery Commission also has a Facebook page as well. So, states as well as just general information will be shared both on their Facebook page as well as through the town website.
We can put that invite on the town website.
Yep. That sounds like a really big event.
It should be.
Well, the placing of the posts, will be done this fall. So we can start getting Ross get on the ground on April 12th.
Good idea.
Do the road commissioner. Got it already. They actually went and collected the posts at behind Nick's building behind where Nick lives. That's what they probably.
That's what, not in my house.
Sorry, behind John's house. And so they've got it up down the garage. So they'll set that in for us this fall.
Based on the weight of that marker. You might check with your state contacts and see if they have a certain way they like the post to be set. That's got a fair amount of weight to it
Yeah,
compared to the typical aluminum.
right, that we see everywhere. So what was told to me, and again, this will be good on the ground that the cemetery is, obviously it's different. Their recommendation is to go roughly 2 to 3 feet with concrete base, we put the post in. Where the concrete reinforce it that way, and then there are special rivets, screws that go into. There's 2 to 3 of them, and once the marker's delivered, we start at the town garage, and then we kind of just do a rough idea of what it is. But we will be reaching back out to the state preservation officer later this summer, just kind of take a follow up and go through things. And she will also be able to create on the dedication of remarks. And I can pass on her email if any of your questions, so can be directly answered by her.
Very good.
Thank you.
Questions from the board? Very nice, thank you. I'll give him a-
Thank you.
Very nice.
And your cemetery.
Be able to meet down at the cemetery, Saturday morning, so.
Yeah, I can do it.
I can do the Saturday,
Yeah. And
that works for me.
how long?
Riverside or out there.
Okay.
Okay, I see you Saturday. Thank you again.
Thanks, Jim.
Or here.
All right, moving on to item 3, law enforcement, Swanton animal control.
Got a fairly active report in the packet, nothing to be too serious. The one dog bite,
Yeah, it's a second item.
yeah, up to, the dog was on its own property. So the dog bit.
You say contractor, one of our employees or?
No,
Somebody else.
somebody was employed, it was dog's dead, the person did go to the PR, the dog has been licensed and has its job, so. So,
And was in his on his property.
contractor was on the property that the dog was. Not much they can do because, yeah, the dog's doing its job. And let's see, that was. Pretty much it, they, it's been, and now Jim was on vacation,
19th.
19th to 23rd.
What do you do with him? The dog is thinking that they're protecting the occupants of the house, they might bark. How much is allowed? Is it just, barking that goes on and on?
Constant.
Okay.
Constant.
Considered a nuisance when they're consistently.
I hear a dog barking. But a number of years ago, my neighbor had a dog that was very good, never barked or anything else. I knew they were away quite late at night before they get back and, we were playing, I think they were sitting in the living room and, when he was in the hall from I heard him bark in the summer, I heard it. And it was an aggressive bark, so I got up to investigate. And I didn't see anybody. And then he quiet out.
Any other questions on animal control?
It's been quiet since Jim's been out.
Someone like to. Use yourself.
Okay, we're gonna move on to expenditures. The orders are all dated, I believe, 5/21/2025 to 6/17/2025. So we'll start with the general orders and the motion.
I'll make the motion to the general orders of $120,000, $120,825 $25.06.
There, a second.
Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Highway orders, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the highway orders in the amount of $54,799.81.
There, a second. Second. Has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved, special orders, and
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the special orders in the amount of $95,118.28.
there a second,
Second.
motion been made and seconded, approved special orders, $95,118.28, any discussion?
This on the, we've got two different account things, I know we're using special orders for. Some of it's library, some of it's rail grade. So you, but you keep track of that, you have that. Now. Yeah,
And there's Fourth Street in there too.
yeah, and Fourth Street.
Yes.
And we got a line item for those signs, and then we get this, approved tonight, and we'll go back and hopefully spend some money on that.
Oh, yeah, you know,
Any other,
Maybe once in a while, just, I don't think I do that every meeting, but if we are spending a lot out of there, maybe just give us an account balance for each one.
put it on top balance sheet.
Yeah, yeah.
especially like the library repair and installation, I'd like to see the.
Yeah.
The detail on that.
Yeah.
Any other discussion here in special funds? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Library orders,
We approve the library orders for the amount of $10,903. Date dated.
wait a second,
I'll second.
motion been made and seconded, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, move,
I'll make a motion to approve the highway and general payroll in the amount of $37,206.68.
I'll second.
it's been. Made and seconded, approve the highway and general payroll. Any
Thank
further
you.
discussion? All these are employees of the town. On here,
I didn't see her name.
okay. Any other discussion? Here none, those all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so move, library payroll,
I'll make a motion to approve the library payroll orders. For the equal date of $9,296.40.
I'll second it.
motion been made and seconded to approve library payroll of $9,296.40. Any discussion? Here none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so move. Okay. Highway. That one. All right, last month, who's been prepping for paving, a lot of that's knocking back the shoulders so the water drains better and also sweeping the streets, they changed the culvert on Sweet Hollow Road. They completed first round of roadside mowing. And today they actually did an emergency repair on South River Street, someone called and said there was a hole. About 5 feet deep, about this big through the pavement, but then they opened it up, there's an issue with a culvert. So they worked with the village. Made some emergency repairs and then they'll go after more permanent repair in the next couple of weeks. Paving. Plan right now is early August, Pike is a little bit behind schedule because of all the rain. And the second piece of this is in the packet. Pike has come back and said they would. Do the McQuam Shore. And the. County road paving at the same price per ton as what they bid and we awarded. So they sent a note for us to sign. Brian's already signed it, but it hasn't been sent. I think the board should approve this. It's up to 175 max. From the state, we have to pay 20%, which would be about. It would mean the state share would be about 168,000 of that 175. The thing is, I think we should put a note on here, have a discussion with Pike and just put a note on here, this is subject to us getting that approved. Grant, they sent us an email, they said it's approved. But they have told us we won't have the grant in hand till mid-July, right? Roughly early July, mid-July. The budget, the state budget's been approved, but I don't really wanna go forward unless we.
Yeah, it's good to do that.
I'd rather have that
Yeah.
note on here with both parties signing it than just to send this to them. And
So what's the difference the town has to come up with?
it would be. Basically 38,000 from 38,000. And that's what we had that
Well, go for
balance on the other, yes, that's what the plan would be.
That's like we'll do it. Do we need to make a motion to that effect, Joe?
We need to make a motion to approve this. And subject to the grant approval being seen.
Did we have, was this included in the original discussion we had, or do we have to send this out for bids?
I don't believe we have to send it out for bids, it's basically amending the contract that we awarded. Cause they're doing, their bike is honoring their $80.64
Oh, yeah,
per ton,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I,
Same price we got for the originally,
right,
yeah,
so we put out for bid and Bike was the low bidder at just 80.64, so we asked Bike. We got this other work, if the grant gets approved by the state approved the grant, they just recently Bike. Thought about it and said they'll come back in and honor the 80.64, so I see this as kind of like an. Addition to the existing contract that we're applying.
So this falls within the parameters of our purchasing.
I think so, I see this as a change order to the contract,
Okay,
and. We already bid pavement prices in 80.64, it was like, was that.
they were by far the lowest.
That's a very good price, they obviously know the business. So. I'm gonna entertain a motion to approve this subject to the receiving of the grant. From the state and having Pike conditional off on this as well, with that note typed on here. We wanna make that motion?
Okay, I'll move that we approve the proposed contract from Pike. Contingent upon state approval of the grant and contingent upon for the amount of. No, $190,874.88. Contingent upon the state approval of the grant and also contingent upon Pike signing this at that price.
and that contains, that also reflects what we have to pay.
Yes,
You're a second,
I'll second.
motion's been made and seconded, any further discussion?
Do you wanna put in your motion for Brian to sign it?
yeah, and also Steve just said that the town agrees to pay its portion,
Of the grant?
yes.
Yeah.
And allow Brian to sign the contract.
Okay, I just didn't wanna be.
Yeah, you're right, it should be, you're right, it should be in there.
Otherwise, they can.
Once I was.
You get that, I'm sure.
Second.
Alright, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye. Apologize on my notes, I don't know why I typed Comstock, so I should have been county, just so you're aware. Swan Hill Road, all the paperwork is complete, both landowners have signed off a temporary construction easement, thanks to Brian for getting them in here and talking with them, showing them the drawing, so. We are gonna go up and start removing asphalt. Off the ledge area that's gonna get blasted, but the actual blasting is probably gonna be late July. And that's when it's really gonna get interesting up there, and our team will be up there for probably 2 weeks, so. Working at, the blaster thought he could get it all blasted in a week, but. There's a lot of material to haul out of there, in one spot it's 7 feet that we're dropping that, and right now we're trying to find a hole and take all that rock, because we cannot use it all up there. But it's moving ahead and looking forward to getting that in a much safer place for. Folks next
I want to try to get that done before they start paving. That's part of the our pay, no,
we've got money,
yeah,
well, and find somebody, we're getting.
so we don't have anybody lined up to pave that right at the present time.
That worst case is it stays open.
Yeah,
It'd still be better than it was,
Yeah.
and the one thing about it, if it stays open for winter. The settlement,
yeah,
I really don't wanna put a top coat on, but I wanna get the base coat. We get up there in early July, we'll ask. Couple
Yeah.
pavers to give us a price and see if we, what they'll charge. And whether they can get it in there. Brooklyn Street, talked about it before, Brian's got the needed easements made up, gotta get the landowners to sign them. And work to begin in the fall when drier, hopefully, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about that because. Another note here, we talked about line striping, talked to L&D and told them early September. is when we would like to do it, and I also asked the state to hold off on McQuam. And county, cause those are class 2 roads that they state automatically stripes every year. Very interested in the local. Office, district office just said, go to this. Email address and send them a note, and he said sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I sent him the email and said, don't strike those till later, but see how that goes. So 3, this one shocked me just a little bit when Kevin called me the other day. 153 and counting right now, trees that need removed in that right away, knew it was a large number, did not realize it was this big. So we are really turning up the priority to remove as many of these as we can. Which is basically get them dropped down. Cut them up in log length and get them out of the area, and then we gotta find someone who even take all this wood. And we're no way we're gonna get 153 done this year, we're just gonna have to.
Gonna board it.
Yeah,
Can we handle all of these, Joe?
no, not all of them, no, there's a couple already down West Swanton where they're too close to power lines and stuff, and we have some of our own money, and a couple of those trees are getting dropped next week, we going out and get bids and.
So do we have to, for the ones that we can't handle ourselves, we have to hire someone?
Yes,
Do we have a budget item for that?
we have a budget item, it's small, it's 13,000 and. Just 4 big ones on McQuam, right near the culvert, it's just south of the James Road, there's X's on them, $4,000 and remove those. Grain.
Oh, I remember that piece.
No, for the 4 that are there that are there, yeah. Yeah, it's, we're gonna put a bigger budget for next year, cause we gotta get moving on this before they start falling into the roads.
Workers' comp rate real high for the nuts, real high.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the highest in the state for trees and logging.
For that time, man, it is. Next item, biking signs, this is a new law the state has passed, and I didn't even realize it till 2 people now have contacted me. About putting some of these signs up, and they talk about McQuam Shore Road, well, it's not just McQuam Shore, we got bikers on a lot of our roads, and I would like to start buying some of these signs, we have a line item to buy signs. Kevin's gonna price them out, I don't have a price yet. But unless someone has a real issue with it, I'd like to get. Some of these and really put one at the beginning of the road and one at the end of the road.
How many signs do you just anticipate to do it properly? Cause you know, I'm just gonna say for West Lawn for sure, Tabor Road, Lake Drive. Campbell, like Bay Road, there's a lot of bikes on that road, Church Road. So you're gonna have to do every road in town.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe like Pond Road, not necessarily Pond Road.
Maybe,
All of it, you know,
Yeah,
definitely the more recreational areas, West Swanton. Lake Road, I'm not,
Yeah.
they just McQuam.
yeah,
You know,
through that area.
those would be the starting and.
And the county road and, yeah, maybe that loop comes out, yeah.
South River.
You're gonna have quite a few, but it's a good thing to do, you're seeing it more and more on the road and it's a good idea.
And it's the state law, so we
Yeah,
might as well. Well, state doesn't say you gotta put them up, the law is 4 feet.
Okay.
Why you couldn't get a handheld sign? People just won't give.
And then Brian put together a request for proposal for a new pickup. Without the body, we talked about this before. So I wanted to see if the board tonight. And unfortunately, we didn't get this out to you, so we could look at it before. But this is something, if we send it out. This is a request for proposal, so the different. Dealers can come back and say, well, we'd like to provide this and move this or something. It's basically to get this out so they can come back. Give us their thoughts on what we want, and they can talk with Brian and Kevin and get us a proposal and we can open bid and.
Are you gonna contact the dealer directly, so this goes fairly good?
I'd like to, yeah, I mean, to me, it ought to be pretty much St. Albans and Swanton.
Yep, I would say, yeah.
No particular brand, get it to all of them and
Yeah.
see what they come up with, and then we can look at it and make our decision.
And there's a big discount on that cyber truck.
Okay, anyway. One thing,
What I heard.
Brian asked me to take a discussion with Kevin and whether or not we want the plow package, and I going on that, I want that to be a good work truck. That we don't beat up with a plow, but we got enough.
Yeah.
Plow equipment,
Yeah, I wouldn't do it either.
and if you guys are good with that, you won't.
Not the reason we're buying that truck should not have a plow. I don't want quite the long.
And smooth workers around.
Yeah,
Everybody good with that, going out with this?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Last, item that, regarding our snow plow, we have received a late bid, but I don't. I'd like to even hold off on that. Okay. Cause we're calling a few of the dealers around here. See if they have any thoughts on how best to handle trying to get rid of that stuff.
yeah, we need to get a realistic price what that's gonna bring.
Yeah.
I know what we want, but gotta be realistic.
Okay, snowplow, you're talking about the big truck again,
The. We put out a request for proposal that we were selling, well, not request for proposal, request for bid.
For bid, selling.
To get rid of one of our old trucks to
Oh, okay.
replace that new one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Earl talked about going to some of those magazines, but I asked Kevin to call some of the
Yeah,
dealers that we work with and say, what's this worth?
Yeah.
And see what we can do with it.
then you can advertise it realistic.
Okay. Anything else, any questions? That we care highway, old town business, purchasing policy, that's in the packet. That's the original, was in place, the nice paper for signature.
your motion to set that,
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Been made and seconded to accept the. Update of the purchasing policy, any discussion?
Just wanna make sure that. Don't probably missed it because of a lot of stuff here, but. That no, that borrowing money was. Not allowed without sweating my group.
Yeah, I think you brought that up before.
Yeah, I did, 'cause you see it, Kathy?
On page 12 goes over all the minor purchases, major purchases,
And it says,
large purchases.
but it doesn't say it has to be done with select board approval.
Loans, I think.
Specifically for loans.
I mean, they can't anyway.
No, not supposed to, but you know, if it doesn't say in the policy, somebody might pick up, you know what I mean?
That's against state law, Stucker, so.
I know, but it should say in the policy to make it clear, you know.
Right, I can.
Cause I mean, some people do it, I can see this whole issue as being an innocent thing, but if it was clear in the policy that it couldn't be done, then it would have been taken care of right before anything ever happened.
Yeah, that's one of the things we discussed, we definitely
Yeah.
wanted in here.
Yep.
I also made a suggestion about taking out newspapers, but there's some reason why, in terms of advertising bids, but there's. Some reason why we put in.
Well, sometimes it's grants required,
Is required, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
which,
It
a
might be-
lot of the same with putting. Notices like DRB in a newspaper, I think that keeps people, that's legal reason. Portion.
We got the pyramid piece in, but yeah, I think we should have a separate paragraph that.
Where you come into the purchase and stuff, that should be the lead paragraph. Right off.
No, yep. Alright, I can say we hold off on it, but I'm gonna get that, yeah. All good. Whistleblower,
That's exactly it.
yeah, I got a little bit of a. A couple comments, Bounce does. What's the definition of a protected employee? It's mentioned. Oodles of times in here, there's no definition. I don't really see this as it's written as a policy, I see this as. Somebody, I think you guys said it came from law, League of Cities and Towns. Just put out. Whistleblower protections.
Liability issue for the town, is that why they put an L,
In the. Ethics. Legislation. It would require that towns adopt the policy. And that whistleblowers. This is what the league came up with. Cover,
We're obligated to take a hazard.
well. No, but lawyer wrote it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind if we turn this into a policy, I mean, don't have a signature page right now, I don't think. Do we?
No.
And we should find out what is the definition of a protected employee.
Fair question.
Because no entity of municipality can prohibit a protected employee from engaging, no protected employee will be subject to. And on, as I read this, I kept hearing that, and if you don't have the definition as part of your policy, then it's subject to. Yeah, protected employee, that's another paragraph right there, So I think we should get that definition and then. Make it look like a policy, something even in the beginning, it's a state. We don't,
We should add it to that.
Yeah, we could add, that's something that we could add to that, would be a lawyer couldn't have, would get too upset about that. I mean, you'll add a definition, yeah.
I would think within that training, which I know I've still gotta do mine, I would think within there's gotta be some definition of what a protected employee is. Those are my comments.
We could just staple it to the back, I think it's a good idea.
Bring it up back to
2025 contract for Missisquoi Valley Rescue.
In your packet, that was something that started last winter and then fell by the wayside, but the resurrected it. Retroactive effect back in January 1, but. Whatever everything, there's all other change on it, but then because it's dollar and space. Made and scheduled.
Did the Western Florida have a chance to look at this?
Yes.
word, I mean.
It's
21. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the contract. With LA Rescue for the amount of $259,400. The annual monthly payments, is that how you look at it?
Yeah.
Monthly payments in the amount of,
Well, what they do,
oh, okay, I see.
what they do, January, February, March, they get 3 months,
Yeah.
and then one following 9 months, they'll get
Okay, so
one payment. 1 month.
it's already done anyway. Yeah, well, some amount of $64,872.47 by March 15th of this year, 2025, and then 9 monthly payment. $21,614.17 to the 15th of each month after that, ending December 15th.
Fine.
Oh, and to have our town administrator Ryan Savage sign the contract.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded, is there any further discussion?
But accept the items essentially, at least that's what I read.
Pretty common.
Pretty common,
It's part of insurance and you hear it all the time and insurance policy.
yes, I looked it up, it seems like, yeah. You do that,
Pretty uncommon not to see it.
that's pretty common enough to.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye. Aye. Opposed, so moved. Ratification of appointment of Don Como to represent the town in tax sales.
As you recall, the last meeting, when I sent out, sent out a memo to the board. And we agreed. Information on the work of the C, it's set by state statute. That go ahead, notify the tax collector that. Good. Right, I did it so that. Go up and how you're on.
Any motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the appointment of Von Como to represent the town of Swanton and tax days.
Second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Discussion of State Drive.
As we all know, State Drive goes to the new, agency transportation facility, which is, just about. Ready to be occupied, the offices are done, and they're moving into them, they're being in with this front.
They get the permits.
Oh, yeah, they were all probably, and they paid, them. And that's the last thing. Anyways, going forward, so the edge of State Drive, the new portion, which is from the facility, and then is going to be open to traffic. And I've been approached by Mr. Richard Cummings, the study development going, very no comment. He's in the process of expanding that, and he can sell 2 additional lots for housing if he can exit Jerry Mill Drive out onto that.
Lydia's Ridge.
Oh, Lydia's Ridge, I'm sorry. Lydia's Ridge, will exit out onto State Drive. The state doesn't have a problem with it. They fully expected that developers were going to use it. That's why they said they built it like they did. And however, it is still not ours to allow technically, as the state still has the easement on that portion. And there would be some time for us to get that transferred so that we can grant permission. So Joel and I spoke today about it, and I got hold of Brad, advised Mr. Cummings to call the agency of transportation, Brad McAvoy is the project manager of that project. And McAvoy called me, they're fine with it, and they understand, I mean, trying to get housing built. And this would make an additional 2 lots for Mr. Cummings to build houses on. So we've just are looking from this board is just a quick letter which I can offer to the state saying that we have no problems the time being for Mr. Cummings to use that. And then we'll work on getting a meeting and figuring out what we need to do to get that whole thing transferred over to us.
Did you each have 2 houses or two lots for multiple houses?
Well, he said 2 lots, so I really,
Well, it all comes down, that's still a class 4 road.
yes, yeah.
Does the state gonna accept the responsibility for maintaining it for these additional law?
Well, they are gonna maintain it as they.
Yeah, but I understand
Yeah.
that, you know, that the town's not gonna go up
That's
there.
right, that's right.
First of all, State Drive up to the new office. Where's he hooking in?
Right. At the
Where, I
entrance
just
to the
gonna look
office.
for the picture, where's the picture? I made
Is he
a
hooking
copy of
into
it.
this, what the state has, or is he hooking into the
Gonna
class
be-
4?
And we paid for it.
Right, cause I mean, part of that right now is just
Yeah,
the state,
yeah.
Yeah, it's flat. So here we are.
well, it's not even class 4, it's the state. There's the class 4 part of the old Shoreland Road,
The old shoulder.
and then there's the state piece.
Right. So this is. This is what's known as the shoulder.
Yes.
This is Lydia's Drive. State is there. And you're gonna better.
I'm pulling
picture-
it up right now.
Give me a second.
But the state is on this side.
This square lot is this. This 10, so he's basically coming out between. Their 2 entrances, they have 1 entrance right here.
Yeah.
and one right here, so
And
he's
that's
coming right down through
This
the
is all
middle.
paid,
So that's paid, and that's actually the class 4 showing road there.
So he's actually gonna enter onto the paved and go this way.
But the agreement was the state was gonna upgrade it and maintain it until they turned it over to us.
until the town was at some point in time reclassified the road.
Yeah,
Which we
here's the
still
road
need
here.
the deed or the
But
easement
we
for
make
the
the
road,
rest of it.
yeah.
So what I would say is, a letter that we concur with doing this. But it still should be subject to DRB approval as well, so they'll be watching on whatever their requirements are for how they want this road to be made.
Yeah.
And.
Yeah, well, that's why isn't it? He's-
Right, right, but I mean, I just wanna make sure this letter doesn't override anything of the
I'm not
DRB.
gonna be in favor of it unless the state agrees to our original terms and also take care of this, you know. Understanding there's gonna be a couple other lots going on. That's all. They know that.
But he's gotta get the state approval.
Yeah.
He needs our letter and so it should say subject to the state approval
Yep,
and DRB approval.
Cause what he's saying is if he can't do this. He's gonna lose these two lots, putting in a cul-de-sac.
oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, understand.
And it's just future development out here,
I'm sure.
yeah.
Cause he owns this lot and he owns all of
I
it.
mean, the nice thing is you got 2 different ways to get in here.
Wow, yeah, but are these people gonna automatically take that road because? See, that's something to consider right there, this could create some. There may be more than just 2 lots, is that, is there, or is it limited?
It's all of these lots, he would lose two lots.
Okay.
He can't do this.
Okay,
He's not gaining anymore, he's still trying to get, these 3 are already done. These 7 are the ones he's trying to get approved for the PRD.
but these, if, what you're saying is 2 more he can get if he don't have to know.
No.
He will be able to get these 2, if he can't, he loses these 2 lots.
Yeah, but all these lots are gonna access that road,
As well, these 3, I'm sure they're already approved.
They
so they're not even gonna use Bushy
And they
Road.
Well, they might
They
be
could
pushing.
even come in this way to go to the church if they want to avoid
Yeah,
Bushy Road.
they can,
They
they
can-
have 2 ways to get out of there.
That's.
Don't you remember in the planning-
It's gonna have a fair amount of.
It will have.
Yeah,
And the state said he expects, it expected that, that's why they looked at.
I think in the new planning changes, they said if you didn't have another outlet, you had to put a cul-de-sac in
Right.
it,
That's
that just makes sense.
You know,
And that's why
because
he's
it's
trying to
good,
limit it.
you're having 2 entrances and emergency vehicles, something's going on, you can get in a different way.
Just for my clarity, right now, the state controls the road.
Correct. They maintain and plow it,
They
and
maintain, plow it, and then the town, eventually, we're trying to work out the town.
But we own the road.
we own that part of it, Shoal
not the
Glass
new
Road.
road, not the new part.
What they're
right,
trying,
not the new part, but this is. this is
Yeah,
actually
that,
connected to Shoal.
yeah, we own a section of it,
Right.
their buildings basically.
it's hard.
And once, okay, so once, if we do approve the building of the extension. Would we take over the maintenance of that?
Well, that's the issue,
Yeah.
and I don't know, now it's a bigger development, I'm thinking, that was what our plan was in the future, I mean, it might be simpler just to do it.
And keep in mind that as you get going on state road
Yeah.
further down, you're gonna have eventually a military installation.
Yeah,
Then after that, there's no, but the other property owners will be developed,
Right,
so.
but that, yeah, the military's up here. And as far as Lydia's Ridge, don't know how they're subdividing that and whether that's something we take over or not, I mean, that's.
No, that's what it is in itself.
Private.
Right.
Yeah,
You know, it's private and if they don't,
seems kind of logical, you're gonna see.
No,
Well, I don't know, I guess time we started considering it, just because it is a solid boat bridge thing. Just another step forward.
In interest of trying to get. The companies to get approval, the BRD actually.
I'm comfortable with a motion for a letter that says we are okay with Lydia's Bridge connected into Shoal Road. Subject to DRB and state approval.
no liability to the town.
And right,
Then we can continue the discussion whether it's time to make it or not. Just so we don't wanna hold up here.
Right, yeah, this would allow him to get
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
And it, we gotta move forward at some point and
Yeah.
take that over.
Yep.
Take over State Drive.
Yeah.
Not I use it.
Right, not linear, right,
That's, yes, okay, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, so anything in that motion?
Um,
Okay, second, motion's been made in second, any further discussion? Hear none, all in favor, state aye. Aye. Opposed, so move. Vote Swan update. And graphic design selection. Go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, so pending all the feedback we received on the design that was last presented to you, we submitted that to the graphic designer and. This is the final plan that he has sent back to us, so we are looking for. Approval to accept this design and move forward with the construction of the signs. In addition to the graphic design, Earl and I went out to start soliciting information from businesses about what they'd like to be listed on or as on our business directory. While doing that, we shared this kind of concept with them and we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback from the community. Folks already asking for Swanton merch with this logo on it. Just for feedback for you guys.
Yeah, that's kind of remarkable, we went up last Friday. And you, we got 9 responses somewhere in that area already,
6 or 7?
yeah. But, you know. Business community, I believe is gonna really appreciate, at least my take on it, our effort in doing this. I think it's gonna be good for Swan.
Is the village seen it?
Well, not yet, and you know, I had some thoughts on that too, because when we're coming into the signage, there's gonna be some difference here, but. I think the goals, when we had this discussion, I was saying, like, you know how in a website, this would be the center. Underneath would be town, village, has present. Now, how are we gonna do the signs?
I had your little emblem down at the bottom.
Yeah.
So it would still do that, I just,
But how are we gonna put the signs in the exact same place? That's another issue.
as far as I'm concerned, we've been 2 years and we still don't have them changed, they look like crap and. No one's come up with a better location than I know, but that's just my take on it.
Typically, you'll see in towns that, you know, when you come in like, I would say one place that would be ideal, or at least one of them would be Lakewood Drive.
Instead of waiting to come into it right after the wildlife refuge on 78, having it more pronounced in West Swanton.
Alright, we can have that discussion,
Yeah.
but first, I mean, should we run this by the village
Absolutely.
before we 100% approve this?
Yep.
Especially if we're gonna do the welcome to sign. Then another thought I was gonna share with you is that down at the VFW, that art board, sign board. Is maybe having this in the center and then dividing up about 4 different sections, which maybe has like the library with some other buildings and maybe something with the. Wildlife, you know, blue heron and some. And using this as kind of that whole thing, but again, I think you got a little bit of motivation to get the village to say, yeah, this is nice.
I think there's a transition between the town and the village that has to take place as far as sign is concerned, when you're coming into the village area. Might direct it more to the what's available there, parking and shopping or eat dining. Rather than a sign, just a sign like this. Yeah, I don't know, there's probably something, they have improvements that. These are. They probably started some. Versus control. I don't know what the rest of them are, if they include signage or not, are you aware of anything?
I'm not in, no.
So that's another reason why we should meet with the trustees and look at this and discuss those issues.
Yeah, I mean, Susie was one of the ones that was on
Yeah.
the,
And she's seen this, but
Right.
not all of it. So
Right.
I've seen it.
But
and what I was gonna do is take this, if someone sends me the file, I will send it to the sign. Folks, and that way we could have that and this overall, and then that is a discussion with them.
When it comes to locations where some things with one on the St. Albans Swanton border on 7.
It's not such a heavily traveled road, I was thinking that one there, you might wanna maybe put on the Swanton Village side of John Bridge. And then maybe one at the coming off the interstate, but the village, but we don't wanna do this unless we're gonna have, I think there need to be some changes in the village side. You know, to make all this work, really work.
Alright, so this. We think the village should say, give us a head nod before we as a group approve it. Yeah.
It's kind of courtesy.
Yeah. How about any other promotes on the
Well, other than getting, working on the website,
gathering information from the
yeah,
business.
and we did take some pictures that we could use on our website, you know, to try to highlight. Community. Maybe able to page to be a little bit brighter. On grabbing type front page. We're working on that and, you know, through equal, but we already have the agreement. You can start, and I know you asked that question, and I don't see any reason why you couldn't start sending what's coming in.
Nicole and I have figured out, she has an intern starting, I'll send it to them.
Okay. So we're moving ahead slowly but surely.
Alright, thank you. FEMA buyout.
Okay, there's 3 properties in the town and village, one in the village, 2 in the town. That are participating in the FEMA buyout. A flood zone can go on for 2 years, a 2-year process. And we're to the point that one of the sellers of or the property owners is pretty much ready to go. But we're at the point that we have to hire, the town has to hire an attorney, which will be a reimbursable expense under the FEMA program. We have to hire an attorney to do title searches and prepare deeds, et cetera, that's needed to disclose it. I would like to be authorized to contact Von Como and ask him if he's interested in doing that work for us. And while I'm at it, I may also talk to him about further business with the advice of this board, with the consent of the board. We're having the same issues back as we have had.
We're recommending that you'd like to expand the business we do with.
See how he does in this.
You do a lot of town work.
He does, yeah. What he used for. Yep, so that's. Or the immediate is to get this.
For the FEMA buyout, right? Your motion to approve Mr. Como for the FEMA buyout of legal work. Second. Any discussion?
Where are these properties? I know one is over here on.
Boundary Street, and the other 2 were down on North River. 312 and 366 North River. The 2 on North River have accepted the offer. One will not close until next year, but the first one is going to close as soon as we can get stuff going. And Boundary Street has not accepted the offer yet, but it's you know, it's a tough, it's probably a tough decision for the property owner to make. They have a lot of questions first, but the availability of a reasonable price property now is a little harder than it was. But I'll be checking in with them on Boundary Street.
And the FEMA covers 100% of this, you don't have to kick in anything.
We don't have to kick in anything, they don't have to kick in anything. We just have to pay for it up front, but we're keeping, so far we've spent $800 on each one. So $2,400. Keeping track of our expenses.
Hopefully the funds don't get pulled back.
That question is one of the questions that everybody has asked,
Yeah.
property owners.
Yeah.
No, these funds, they said they're committed, they're not pulling back, so.
Okay.
Imagine once FEMA buys it out, it's not gonna be like the property.
Oh, we have to completely destroy it.
It's done.
Piece of land.
Because the land reverts back to its original state. You could, I mean, the one on Foundry Street could be mowed and kept as a park and whatnot, would be all right, no building or anything goes on.
You can't grow grass on it.
And grow around,
Okay,
okay,
which is good, good for erosion. Alright. Did we vote on that? No,
Yeah.
yes. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those favors state aye. Aye. Opposed, so moved. 8C is the fee proposal for the changes in zoning.
So Amy and I worked together and compiled the fees from all the neighboring towns and what is handwritten, what she hand wrote is what she is proposing. And it'll be part of when the planning commission comes back to the next meeting. I just wanted to make sure you had it first, and the planning commission had all verbally approved it.
So you don't need approval of this.
No, I just wanted to share it with you so you knew ahead of time.
Very good.
So this is based on what other counties.
Yeah.
Very reasonable.
Yeah. We haven't held, I think what a few years since they did that.
I think some of them have been adjusted since like 2015. Yeah.
Earl asked for an update on the song on.
yeah, and they have been working out there the last few days, I don't have anything real concrete, intended on that. Other than I know that, everybody was asking, what's going on. Neil Spears stepped forward with, oversee it, Suzanne, Washburn was doing a pretty good job, but she's been very frustrated, she broke her leg earlier, she had that to be dealt with. You know, things, are progressing slow, but it's all volunteer labor for the most part, so things should start taking shape as they're going forward.
So they replaced the phone and then there will be a new building, not with the old.
There will be a new building, I'm not sure what the design of that is, seems.
They're taking up more space in the park.
It's pretty much one of those buildings TDI has for sale, shed, you know. Basically 10 feet more to the west is what they added on. So on 5 feet. Anyway, 10 feet total distance to the west, new sidewalk, just more fencing and. Better filtration and better building as far as the work, but it is moving, it is slow, but I think it's got a little fire in it right now.
Yeah.
Especially with that. Car showing everything else.
Yeah,
Coming out in the
yeah,
summer to get
yeah,
the swans out
yeah.
there.
They're also cutting a fair number of trees in the park.
Yeah, that was a plan thing.
Oh, I was playing.
I saw lots of testing today.
Is that what they were
There were
doing?
3 or 4 people sampling wells of some sort,
They were doing
I
it
have no
over by the
idea.
library too.
no idea, we had
They're in, yeah, they're little places in the park that can go
yeah,
down, yeah.
we got some monitoring wells, of some sort of what they're, and.
No, they've been there for years, because the first time I saw them a few years back, I called and asked, and I said, well, that's what they do, they're monitoring these.
What do they monitor?
Oh, probably for underground
They
storage.
take samples of.
Oh, like it was leakage or something that happened years ago.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
one knows if they feel bad.
Painted bid,
Yeah, we got a bid on the painting. This is for the,
and this was due,
it was due today.
okay. Gilmet's Handyman Services. Bid is for 2 years inside the town offices, I will remove everything from the wall, paint 2 coats of paint, repair the minor ceiling ends in the back conference room, front entranceway and clerk's office and kitchen will be 5,000. Boardroom, hallway, restrooms and conference room will be 6,000, so I'm assuming this is the boardroom
Yes.
and the conference room is the other one. Lister's office, administrator's office and the zone office will be 5,000, you will be providing the paint, I will provide the materials for the painting and patching. Walls with paint or 2 coats of paint and only patching that disturbed area of the ceiling. We'll offer discount if you want to do all 3 areas of $500. Total price for labor and materials to the above is 16,000. He should fix this letter. Cause it's 16,00. That's $1,600, depending where that comma goes. But I think the fact he broke down the other area at 16,000. For a deposit of 8,000, which is half. Another 4,000, blah, blah, blah. So it would be 16 or it'd be 15,500 if we were to do all of it. The bid is valid for 15 days from the day above.
We budgeted for this, didn't we? We had this in the budget,
I forgot my name,
yeah.
Did we budget for it?
No.
Technically, we didn't budget for it, it would be, it could be out of that capital improvement, it could be special funds. If we needed, we didn't have other line items to cover it.
That's when we got.
That's the only consistent. Did Menard just wasn't address it, I'll let you know.
Well, we can do it, we can do it with them here.
Go ahead. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, no, I just for
Yeah,
just comparison, had a second bid.
Contracted for the.
That would be
We
cool.
budgeted 20,000. And our office maintenance, we budgeted 20,000.
Yeah. That.
We might have. We might have some stuff done. With the stuff.
We estimated that how long it would take him. I'm just curious.
I don't think they saw that in those. That's the shut down the job this week.
Well, neighboring town shut down.
We paint their cover.
They the windows open and I don't think it'd be too bad, come work in this area, not gonna take too many days to be good color with that.
Yeah, work out the details.
Yeah. Oh, responsible for what?
Yeah.
But you could have a mess.
So for the maintenance, there was 20,000 in the budget.
Yeah, it's good.
Right here, we exceeded that because of the damage. But that includes like furnace and everything else,
Yeah.
so we would eat up a big chunk of that, but we have other areas and. But these line items might be less. And then move on to our meeting. We did, we're gonna hold off on the dump truck bid and those people wanna open that. I'd like to look at some other options first. The RFP for the truck chassis. Community economic development.
There,
Any other necessary business?
yes, I could have put FEMA under community development,
That's undevelopment.
undeveloped, there we go.
Yeah, it's too bad, but I mean, it's, you know, take it away others. Any other necessary business? Correspondence,
Nothing.
public comment? Upcoming events.
Thursday, June 19th, 2025 is the Juneteenth holiday. Town offices and operations will be closed. Thursday, June 26th, 2025 will be a DRB meeting here at the town office at 6 p.m. Tuesday, July 1st, 2025 will be a regular select board meeting with public hearing. The planning commission on zoning bylaw update here at the town offices at 6 p.m. Friday, July 4th, 2025 will be the Independence Day holiday. Town offices and operations will be closed.
Okay, thank you. Back to the painting bid, because other than that, we'll go to executive session, right?
Yeah.
$810 so far.
$810. Okay. What do you think, folks?
We have to make a motion to accept that.
Yes,
I'll make a motion to accept. James,
for all three at 15,500.
we're just gonna.
Do I hear a second?
Second motion.
Motion's been made and seconded, any further discussion? Here are none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So move. Okay. Okay, so executive session, I see legal and real estate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it. I move that we find that we enter executive session for the select board to receive confidential contract and personality personnel.
Yeah, that should have like a parentheses right there, cause this is gonna be for legal and real estate.
Okay, legal. To receive confidential legal and real estate information for which the premature disclosure of it to the general public. Would clearly place select board and others that substantial to the minutes.
No second.
Motion been made and seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, so moved.
I move that based on our just findings that the premature disclosure would place the select board and others at a substantial disadvantage, we enter executive session.
Next second. Second. Been made and seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. So moved. Alright, this one going,
Well, that.
entertain a motion to come out of executive session. At 8:09, Fair second.
Second.
Motion remained second and come out of executive session at 8:09. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
Click the blue cap. I did already know that.
Alright, who wants to make
And
a
then I'll
motion?
make a motion that we authorize town administrator Brian Savage to spend up to 5,000. For the cleanup and security of the
Property located at.
property at, what's the address?
33 Fourth Street.
At 33 4th Street, there a second,
Second,
motion's been made and seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved, entertain a motion to adjourn,
I'll make that one do.
there a second,
Second.
motion been made, second to adjourn, all in favor say aye. Opposed, so moved.